In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove RV sealant without damaging your roof. Now let's cover the tools and supplies needed to remove the sealant. So the heat gun is the most important one here to warm the sealant up to remove it, and then a couple nylon scrapers once it's already warmed up. But to start with, I'll use some simple green and a scrub brush to clean the area off first before we pull some sealant up, and of course some gloves because it's always messy. So I use simple green. You can also use like a Dawn dish soap diluted down with water. Just spray a little bit around. Use your scrub brush. And once you use your scrub brush, take a towel and just wipe up the extra. What I'm looking for here is cleaning the roof just outside of the sealant. I'm peeling the sealant off, so this doesn't really matter if it's clean or not. I just want to make sure the edge of it is clean. It's easier to do this beforehand because if you spray and scrub once your sealant is already removed, and then that water and stuff gets below the flange area. So we're keeping it out here where we can keep it dry. Now the area is clean. I'll use a heat gun. I'll warm up the sealant. I'll do about half of it and then do the other half. So you want to warm it up until it's nice and pliable. This really depends on how warm it is outside. If it's a 70, 80 degree day, you don't need quite as much warming. But if you're close to 50, the sealant takes a little bit longer to warm up. Just go back and forth a couple times until the sealant is a little bit softer, and then we will start peeling. Now this process would be the same whether you're doing this on an event like this, a skylight, a TV antenna like this guy over here, a front cap trim, anywhere on the roof that you're peeling off sealant. This process is the same. Warm the sealant up, peel it off, making sure you're very careful. Time and patience is very important when you're peeling up sealant, because if you go too fast, that's when you can poke a hole in the roof. And we'll cover that later, if you poke a hole in the roof, how to patch it. Okay, it's warmed up. Now I'm going to use a nylon scraper. It's old sealant stuck on there. And when you buy these new, they have a nice sharp pointed edge to them. This one, I've worn the edge down so it doesn't have a sharp edge. That sharp edge can poke a hole in the roof. So a little bit worn or rounded off scraper is perfect. The big fat one works good, or a small one like this. The small one, you can control it a little bit easier because the handle is closer to where you're working with. I'll start with this one and follow up with the short one. So if it's new, you can round the edge off. What works well for that is to take the edge, say you had a sidewalk, and just run it on some concrete, and that'll round that edge off. I don't want to do it on the roof so I don't poke something. So now, once our sealant is heated up, we'll use our nylon scraper. We'll use the first one. We'll just keep working it in, kind of rolling up the sealant in towards the vent, and do this the whole way around. If it feels too stiff, go back and warm it up some more. Now, as I mentioned, this process is the same whether it's a vent or a skylight or other areas of the roof. If you want to see a full process on replacing a skylight, you want to hop over and check out that video. Okay, I've worked my way in to the vent. You can see the plastic right there. Now I use the shorter scraper. I'll just finish it off here. You want to almost like roll your sealant up. When you're rolling it up, it's going to come off a lot cleaner that way. So I'm halfway around. I'll do the same process on the other side, warm it up, and keep peeling. So you see how this is peeling up? Not quite like butter, but it's nice and soft and squishy. That's the perfect temperature. If you're trying to peel it up and you're fighting it, or you can't quite get the scraper in, you need to warm it up some more. There's probably a point you can heat it up too much. It'll just be really slimy, but I've never got there yet. So anytime I always heat it up a little bit extra, it just comes off a little bit easier. So now I'll keep going around the whole vent until all the sealant is scraped off and I can get down to the vent itself. So we'll be back in a second. So now what's the safest way to remove RV sealant? That's with heat and very slowly. Use lots of patience. Because if you go too fast, you can rip the roof material, put a hole into it. Then you had to put a patch over that section before you were to put sealant down again. By going nice and slow, you'll limit your risk of peeling things up. Now you're probably wondering, how long does it take to remove RV sealant? Well, that really depends on how big of an area you're working with, how thick the sealant is, how hard the sealant is, and how long you can bend over and kneel. Something like this, just about a half of an hour to go around this vent. If you were doing a big skylight or a full roof, you could be there for a couple hours or a couple days. Just depends on how much you have to work with. Now as you're looking at this, you're probably wondering, what happens if you leave bits of sealant behind? Like this right here is a thin layer of sealant. You can hear my glove sticking to it. Now that sealant's nice and tacky and pliable. The thin layer of sealant there will be not an issue at all for new sealant to stick on top of it. If it was really dry, you'd have to peel it up. But the thin layer here, trying to get that last little bit up, you can risk poking a hole in the roof, and there's no benefit of taking any more off than this. Want to make sure everything is clean, especially up here by the plastic itself, getting all the bits and pieces off. That's where the small scraper like this comes in to make sure everything is scraped off clean. Now, what happens if you tore the roof membrane when you're peeling up your sealant? If that was the case, you'd have to put an Eternabond patch over that. So let's say the hole was right here. I'd put a patch double or triple the size of that hole, and then that patch would be below. Then as you're resealing everything, you would seal over top of that patch, maybe go a little bit wider in that section. What that would do is create a 2-layer seal. The patch would be your initial layer, and a sealant on top of that patch would be your second layer. If you want to see the full process and putting on the patch, I do have a video on that. And now for one of our followers' questions, how do I remove your RV sealant without peeling the rubber roof membrane off the plywood decking? As I mentioned earlier, going slow and having patience is key to making sure you don't damage the roof itself. By heating up a sealant, using a nylon scraper to slowly peel and roll it off, it'll keep your rubber roof material stuck down to your plywood decking below it and not peel it up. And if you're pulling straight up on the sealant, you'll pull that roof material up and off the decking. By going sideways, slowly working your way in there, you will just work at the sealant itself and the roof will stay where it's supposed to stay. And next, I'm going to remove the sealant from the front cap trim area. Now, we get so many questions from people trying to reseal this area. This area right here does not need to be removed to be resealed. You can clean this to reseal it, but for demonstration purposes, starting from this area where somebody is partially resealed, to my right, I will remove this sealant so you can see what it would look like for the process to remove it and reseal on a front cap trim. So then on the left, I'll just show you cleaning and resealing because that's all that section needs. So I'll start here, I'll start scraping toward the corner. Okay, this side is just regular sealant by the trim, but on the front side, the full body paint overlapped on top of the sealant. Where that paint is loose and chipped and peeling, that needs to be removed, so when you reseal this area, you won't have loose stuff underneath, which will make your sealant not stick. And use the razor knife on the low edge down here, so I can slowly peel that paint off. If I use a plastic scraper in that case, it could peel the paint back here and make things look really bad. So by carefully going in with the razor knife along there, I'm able to just trim the loose paint off, leaving down the paint that's there. Then we'll reseal over top that whole section later. Okay, I'm to the corner now. You see this process is the same as doing the vent. Heat it up, slowly peel it back, clean things off. And I use a towel here. This is dry right now, just to get anything that's loose and crumbly to come off. We'll do a prep before this is resealed, but this is just showing scraping sealant off at this point. So I need to do the corner over here next. Now Erica's gonna switch me and film off a ladder, and I'll scrape from the roof so you can see what's going on over here, because you can't see it from up there. Okay, all our sealant is now peeled off. You can see right there that gap between the roof and this trim area, because this trim is naturally made flat, so they have to curve it on top. That always makes it bubble out a little bit in that section. That's why this part of the roof is always so hard to keep sealed, because this trim wants to push outward, and then your roof is staying tight underneath of here. That creates a gap in this section. So that's how you remove RV sealant. Now, this video is part of a whole series covering the entire process on RV sealant, from inspecting it to resealing it. If you want to see this process in one complete video, that video is linked in the description, along with the tools and supplies needed during the process.